Let's go over the review guide, make sure we have a handle on what's going to be on the test on Monday. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let's share screen. So here's the review guide. So let's kind of walk through. Find the 6 values of the trigonometric functions, angles, and standard position. This is that X, Y, R thing. So again, just as a reminder, what I'm saying is what we're dealing with is the initial side is always going to be the X-axis, again, the initial side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look and try and see it. So it could be, the left half, or it could be the right half. So it depends upon where the point is. So in this case, if we look at -3, -7, that points down here in quadrant 3. So in quadrant 3, we have -3, -7. So this will be my terminal side. So again, if you think about it, that'd be where -3, -7 is. And what I told you was we were able to make ourselves a right triangle. So again, a right triangle. And what we're going to find out is that this side of the triangle is going to be the X. It's how far I went on the X. So in this case, -3. The other leg of the right triangle is going to be my Y. It's how far I go down. And what I need to figure out is I need to figure out my R. And the way that we do that is we use the equation R equals the square root of X squared plus Y squared. So in this case, what I want you to do is check and see what X squared plus Y squared is. So, X equals -3, Y equals -7. So when I do that squared, -3 squared plus -7 squared, that's going to give me 58. So that tells me that R squared is 58. 58 isn't a perfect square, so that's going to tell me that R is equal to the square root of 58. So again, first thing we do is we figure out the value of R. And then what we do is we use all of our ratios that we've done. So we've got sine theta, and sine theta is going to be Y over R. So sine theta is Y over R. So it's the value of -7 over R, the square root of 58. Cosine of theta is X over R. And that is going to be, in this case, -3 over the square root of 58. And tangent theta is going to be Y over X. So in that case, it's going to be -7 over 3. And then, I'm sorry, -7 over -3. And when I simplify that, I'm going to get 7/3. So now, to figure out the others, this cosecant, secants, and cotangents. The way this works out, sine is related to cosecant in the way that it's 1 over sine. So we basically take the reciprocal of that. So it's going to be the square root of 58 over -7. Secant is going to be 1 over cosine. So that's going to be the reciprocal of what we just did, square root of 58 over -3. And cotangent is going to be 1 over tangent. In that case, it's going to be 3/7. So that's how we do the first one. And then there's 2 more that you can kind of practice on, and the answer keys up so you can check your answers. The next one is going to be using that same idea, but what I'm telling you is I'm giving you one of your values, and I'm telling you what quadrant you're in. So again, the quadrant is going to tell you your values of your X's and your Y's. So in this case, I'm in quadrant 4. I have positive X's. I have negative Y's. Again, I'm down, if you think about it in terms of quadrants. Quadrant 1 is positive, positive. Quadrant 2 is negative X's, positive Y's. Quadrant 3 is 2 negatives. Quadrant 4 is positive X's and negative Y's. So in this case, we are dealing with that. Hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So going back to this again. What we have is, we know sine pi is -2 over 3, but we know in the function that sine of pi is going to be Y over R. So in this case, that tells me that Y is -2 and R is 3. So it tells me that I've got a Y of -2 and I've got an R of 3. So what I'm doing is I found out these 2 pieces. So I'm going to use that same logic to figure out my X. My X is going to be my hypotenuse squared minus my y squared. So my x is going to be the square root of 3 squared minus negative 2 squared. 3 squared is 9. Negative 2 squared is 4. 9 minus 4 is 5. Not a perfect square, so x is going to equal the square root of 5. And since I am in quadrant 1, since I am in, quadrant 4, since I'm in quadrant 4, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using that straight up as the square root of 5. It's just the square root of 5. So now when I go to do that, I'm going to find out that if I have sine of theta, it's going to be negative 2/3. The cosecant of theta is going to be 3 over negative 2. Cosine of theta is going to be x over r. So in this case, it's root 5 over 3. So that tells me that secant theta is 3 over the square root of 5. Tangent theta is going to be y over x. So in this case, negative 2 over root 5. And so that tells me that cotangent theta is going to be square root of 5 over negative. That's the next one. Again, one more that you can try on. Next thing we're going to be dealing with is we're going to be dealing with trying to figure out the quadrant and what the signs of these things are. Are they positive or negative? The acronym I told you to remember, where all seniors take calculus. All sine, cosine, tangent are all positive in quadrant 1. Sine is positive in quadrant 2. Tangent is positive in quadrant 3. Cosine is positive in tangent 4. So in this case, I'm saying I'm in quadrant 1 cosine. That's all. So that tells me that that's going to be a positive number. Cosecant. Cosecant is everything to do with sine. Sine in 2 is positive. So that tells me cosecant in 2 is positive. Tangent in 3. Tangent in 3, that's the only positive trig function there. Quadrant 4, we're down here in the bottom quadrant, and sine is going to be negative there. Same idea follows here. Cosine, where is cosine positive? Well, cosine is positive in these two places, but I want also the cotangent to be negative. Well, there's only one place cotangent is negative, and in this case, it's quadrant 4, because in quadrant 4, only cosine is positive. This one's saying sine positive. Well, these are the two, 1 and 2. Quadrants 1 and 2 are where sine are positive. I only want where tangent is positive, or where tangent is negative. So in this case, quadrant 2. This last one is going to be where tangent is positive. So it's going to either be here or it's going to be here. I want cosecant to be positive. So in this case, cosecant is related to sine. The only place where sine is positive is in quadrant 1. And then the last thing we talked about, and we kind of brushed on it today, was finding the angles. Where is angle 123? Angle 123 is in quadrant 2. So that tells me that in that case, sine is positive, cosine is negative, tangent is negative. 273, 273, so it's 90 to 180 to 270, so I'm in quadrant 4. Since I'm in quadrant 4, sine is negative, cosine is positive, tangent is negative. 512, if I subtract that 360, I get 152. Where would I find the 152? So 90, 180, I'd be in quadrant 2 again. So in this case, it'd be similar to number 13. So where it'd be sine is positive, cosine is negative, and tangent is negative. And the last one, negative 212. If I go backwards, 90, 180, up to 270. So again, I'm back here in quadrant 2. So again, I got a sine positive, a cosine negative, and a tangent positive. So that's the front side. I'm going to do a separate video for the back side.